We knew this day was coming. We knew that he was going to want to leave and to have his life back. We knew that that freedom flight was nothing but a fraud of a flight that he was taking. And so now Harry has confirmed that, hey, I want to go back.
Because it is a medical impossibility. So how stupid does this woman think we are? And let's get ready for this video. My God, this woman, when she was pregnant, and we learned later that she had preeclampsia. And this is why she needed to use a surrogate afterwards, because once you get preeclampsia or postpartum preeclampsia, you are very prone to getting that.
What happens when the story once protected becomes the very truth that begins to feel threatening behind palace walls? In this interpretation, silence was never peace. It was strategy, carefully chosen and deliberately maintained.
We knew that that freedom flight was nothing but a fraud of a flight that he was taking. And so now Harry has confirmed that, hey, I want to go back, and he can.
After years of distance, defiance, and carefully orchestrated separation, Prince Harry's reported return to the United Kingdom surprised many observers. This was not described as a nostalgic homecoming filled with ceremony or reconciliation. There were no public crowds, no symbolic gestures, and no images suggesting closure. Commentators close to the situation suggest that Harry's return reflected a deeper longing for something he felt he had lost, rather than a desire for public reintegration. According to individuals described as insiders to the Sussex Circle, the catalyst was not renewed media scrutiny, but what they characterize as a deeply private concern involving questions surrounding Meghan Markle's pregnancies. For years, the family narrative had been tightly curated and vigorously defended. However, when alternative accounts reportedly began circulating quietly within legal and institutional environments, some claim Harry's sense of stability was shaken.
Wants nothing to do with it, but he is trying to get back what he has always, I think, longed for, and this was the first sign.
In this interpretation, a story once constructed for protection gradually became a constraint. Sources familiar with the situation allege there was a private meeting in which Harry, speaking with a trusted legal advisor, expressed emotional collapse rather than defiance. There were no cameras or prepared statements, only what was described as an unguarded moment of exhaustion from sustaining a narrative that had grown increasingly difficult to manage.
And that her lie is going to stick no matter what. I guess that Meghan Markle is one of those.
According to these alleged accounts, the advisor later claimed that Harry acknowledged information that contradicted the public version of events, specifically regarding the pregnancies. These sources suggest Harry believed at the time that maintaining the public narrative was necessary to protect his family and preserve loyalty. In these retellings, he did not express anger toward Meghan, but rather a hollow fatigue, the kind that comes from realizing a strategy that once worked may no longer offer safety.
Absolutely.
And P. Dinah, do you think that part of his desire to spend so much more time in the United Kingdom and set up this royal court?
Commentators describe this fatigue as the emotional cost of loyalty when silence begins to feel dangerous rather than protective. Friends cited in opinion discussions claim Harry recognized that complicity carried consequences, and that the silence he once believed essential had evolved into a liability.
Because maybe in the past it worked for her, because maybe in the past nobody really, when she was an unknown nobody really paid attention to.
If these accounts are accurate, this realization marked a turning point. Observers emphasize that the issue was not simply surrogacy or public perception, but the cumulative effect of sustaining a narrative long enough that it became restrictive. Harry, they suggest, equated loyalty with compliance, believing that shielding details ensured stability.
To rival Prince William is so that he doesn't have to be with his wife in Montecito full time. He can at least spend periods of the year.
According to those close to him, that belief held for years until it no longer did. Exposure of private information, even within controlled legal settings, allegedly revealed the fragility of those assumptions. Analysts stress that Harry was not seeking confrontation or retribution. Instead, he appeared emotionally depleted, attempting to reconcile past intentions with present consequences. In this framing, his alleged admission marked the moment when silence ceased to function as protection and instead became a source of risk.
And we've seen the birth certificate debacle. Maybe it's a clerical error. I don't know, or maybe it's whatever, we've seen the stories.
Central to these claims is a woman identified only as DL, whose identity remains protected in commentary discussions. According to sources who repeat her account, DL alleges she is the biological mother of the Sussex children through surrogacy. She claims her role was systematically excluded from public acknowledgement. In these retellings, she did not seek public attention and remained silent due to contractual obligations and concern for personal safety. Commentators allege that documents and agreements were structured to eliminate any visible trace of her involvement, reinforcing her invisibility within the public narrative.
As she had the backing of the royal household. She still, to a large degree, does, because those kids are in the line of succession, which they shouldn't be. We know the mystery around the birth.
According to accounts attributed to DL, her decision to come forward was motivated not by resentment but by a belief that continued silence would result in permanent erasure. She claims she entered the process under strict confidentiality through a high-profile fertility clinic that emphasized anonymity and compliance. Every step, she alleges, was governed by non-disclosure agreements. When her role concluded, she says contact ended abruptly without follow-up or acknowledgement. In her view, the public-facing announcements and appearances did not align with what she experienced privately.
One of you said yesterday in my video, can't you sue her for posting a fake birth certificate? And actually, no, because you see, Meghan Markle has never officially submitted any.
DL further alleges that Archie was born weeks earlier than the public was informed, in a private setting removed from cameras and hospital visibility. If accurate, commentators argue this would mean that the announcement served more as a narrative insertion than a real-time disclosure. She claims Meghan did not experience labor as publicly portrayed, and that public imagery functioned as performance rather than documentation. Analysts note that if such claims were substantiated, they would raise questions about institutional oversight and narrative control, rather than merely personal deception.
Ever. The only one that we've seen is Archie's birth certificate, which was later amended to include her being called Her Royal Highness, and she didn't want to have her name. But
DL traces her involvement back to late 2018, stating she was recruited through a fertility program that prioritized discretion above all else. According to her account, she was led to believe the intended parents were anonymous high-profile individuals, and she accepted the conditions understanding that invisibility was required.